Hello, welcome to Club IDIC. Today, we will be watching It's Only a Paper Moon from Star Trek Deep Space Nine and discussing returning to life after war. Please enjoy this meeting. Hello.
Hey.
How are you doing?
Better than yesterday.
That's good.
Yeah, I know. And my cousin and his roommate are about to try to log on again. He was trying to log in way early, and he's like, it won't work.
Yeah, I'm not gonna let people in way early.
That's what I tried to tell him. Think he's got it now.
Yeah.
He's used to those game rooms where he can go in and out of the room whenever he wants.
Yeah, no, I'm usually here maybe 15, maybe 10 minutes early, and that's it.
That's why I told him about a quarter till is when I would try.
Yeah, I even put where I live so people can the province I live in so people can look up the time zone that way. And yes, people give me flack about putting approximately where I live, but so what? Like I blocked somebody for that like this week, so whatever.
I put that I live in Oklahoma. It's a big state.
Like if people can't like figure out where Alberta's a big province, like what danger am I in for putting that? Not really any.
I have a rough idea in my head.
Oh, hello. Who's this?
Oh no, I don't see anybody else yet.
Hello?
Don't have a microphone.
Hi. Are you one of Teresa's friends?
I don't know where to type that. Hold on.
She's my cousin's roommate.
Oh, hello. I'm Captain Heather.
Hello. So Janice, oh, but can you hear us?
Okay. So Janice doesn't have a mic. That's okay.
That's all good. But did you watch the Siege at AR 558 yet?
We haven't. We're not. That's not the episode we're on. It's only a paper moon.
I know. I told Joe that they needed to watch that one first because it's only a paper moon.
Well, we'll get to that. I put that somewhere in the schedule.
Well, they can watch it.
I think that's in September.
Uh-oh, we watched the wrong one.
Yeah, we're watching. It's only a paper moon today. That AR 558 one is scheduled for September, Heroes Month.
Yeah, I told Joe because he hasn't watched it in so many years, so it would make more sense if we went ahead and watched it first.
Yeah, let's just do one at a time so not to confuse people. Hi, Joe. Hello?
Oh, you watched them. She watched them both already.
Okay, yeah.
Just changing the microphone. Oh, there, I can see.
Yeah, hi, Joe. How are you?
Well, better now that I have switched the microphone. Janice is in the other room, so even if she can't use the mic, if it's important enough, she could yell.
Well, it's nice to meet you, Joe. I'm Captain Heather of Club IDIC. Oh,
Howdy.
look it. We got a long absent member popping in. I think Anthony's coming.
Yay!
We got a party today.
Money was still feeling weak.
Anthony.
Miss me?
Yes.
Hello, Teresa. How you holding up?
Better today. Yesterday was rough, but better today.
Good, good.
I guess he doesn't have his camera on, but my cousin is on here.
Howdy.
Hello, Mr. Teresa's cousin.
Joe.
Hey,
Joe.
Anthony.
It took him 33 years to come up with Joe.
Oh,
Was it 33 years? Did I get the joke right?
Yeah.
more or less, yeah.
It's a Voyager joke.
Oh, that helps. There's chat window.
Or maybe, I don't know if the joke's right. I don't know. I was trying to be funny.
It was
Well,
still
those of
funny.
us who get it, get it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was still funny.
Anyway, how are you, Anthony? It's been a while.
Okay, you're wondering by what coincidence I'm able to make it to this screening?
Yes.
Because I know about 10 minutes ago, I wrapped up a Zoom conference with my Star Trek club.
Oh, well, that's good.
Yeah, because usually it's photo shoot season. I'm usually busy most Saturdays, and I'm not unfortunately able to log on to this group. But you seem to be doing relatively well without my presence,
Hmm.
which I'm thankful.
But we're working on it.
Yeah. And I hope your medical stuff came out okay.
Still waiting.
Yeah, the thing you messaged me about at 2300.
Oh, I woke you up. I'm sorry.
I know it's 2100 your time.
Yeah, I woke you up. I feel bad. I'm sorry.
So what?
Yeah, I forget the time difference. That sucks. Yeah, so it's good to have a little crowd today.
Yeah.
And this is a good episode. It's a sad episode, but it's a good episode.
Yeah, most of the stuff with the Dominion War saga.
Well, yes,
I
it
mean,
is
more
sad, but it centers on a guy that's no longer with us.
Yes, yes. No, there's two people on DS9 that are no longer with us.
That's true. Yes.
Well, granted, I never got to meet Aaron Eisenberg, but I did meet Renee.
Hmm. Yeah.
I think they were both really awesome to meet. But I mean, I love both episodes, but I really do like Only a Paper Moon, the growth of Nog and the understanding of Vic. You know, when Esri came and talked to Vic for a hologram, you know, his facial expression changed. It was like a sudden thought came to him. Hey, maybe I'm holding him back at this point. He needs to fly. So I like the fact that it was a growth episode for not just Nog.
Yeah. Well, at first, like I don't think people really understood what Nog was feeling because they all crowded around the airlock when he first came home wanting to party and stuff. And Nog was like, oh, you know what? I need to rest. In his mind, he was like, oh my God, go away. I just want to be by myself. And all you want to do is party and celebrate my homecoming. What is there to celebrate? There's a freaking war going on, y'all. Just get away from me.
I think
lost
they
my
felt
way.
like- I think in their minds they were showing him they still support him.
Yeah, I figured that. I figured that part. Yeah, okay, we're in this together. We're here. Basically, the kind of thing people say on Facebook whenever somebody else has a traumatic moment. But I know some guys, like especially some of the guys been coming in from Afghanistan last year. You know, going out there with like ending up like Nog. And some people, yeah, it's not just fixing up the body. You also have to do repair work on the mind. And that is easier said than done.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I agree with what you're saying, Anthony, quite a bit.
There we go.
Is this coming through at all? Because I don't see
Yes.
it popping up on the screen, but I just wanted to say that it's been a while since I watched this episode before today. And an easy way to say the last time I watched that episode was peak post-war PTSD version of Joe, most likely. But we were binge watching all those episodes together and I wasn't giving it much thought. But some things have changed. And he's basically using VR and artificial intelligence to be his therapist. I mean, bottom line. And that was such a neat thing that, you know, Esri could just come in and say, hey, you can only take this so far. And, you know, Fortuna basically, or Fontaine basically understood intuitively how to take care of that. How far is too far to take Nog's fragile, repairing, recovering sense of self and what
Yes.
he's able to accomplish. And back then, that was so far-fetched. Now, in 2022, the things I have been investigating to, just like he was doing with throwing it all into the casino, I've been throwing it all into VR and AI, blending those two things together, not for therapeutic purposes, as was evidenced in the show, but because tinkering with those two hobbies is my therapy. It's just so funny to watch that having advanced from last time I watched it. When was that? 2013. And now, because now it's a reality. Now we're getting there. Now it's getting to where it's a little scary because that is something that could happen. But here's what's different. The interconnectivity that we're all trying to do with this AR, VR, and make it be glasses on our faces instead of us all being locked into the matrix. That's something that we didn't think about back probably when they wrote this episode. They weren't thinking about how we're all going to try to matrix it together, but not be locked in our little cubby holes. We're going to have like glasses or have it attached to our phones. And we all walk around interconnected with our holographic avatars of each other while we're walking around in real time. That's an aspect that they didn't think about back then. And they had it locked into that holodeck, and he needed to get out of that holodeck. And that's a whole aspect of the therapy that was limited by the holodeck mindset of when this was written versus right now seeing it, plus all the crap that I've learned since the last time I watched.
Yeah, but Joe, let me ask you a question. You're using those creative talents you have and using your work to heal yourself, to grow past your traumas, right? Nog was using that artificial reality to forget, to pretend it didn't exist and didn't happen, correct?
Yeah, I mean, it is very distractive if you let it be, but I don't choose to play Call of Duty type
That's right.
games. I very intentionally avoid certain things, but yeah, it can go either way. I'm not going to say I don't use it just the same way Nog did. I identified with that quite a bit. But as they were trying to say, you got to step back into the real world. And I'm saying, well, maybe I take a half step out and try to pull this into my therapy in a different way than the way they presented it. So where it's not so much of a negative and a dependence and a crutch, which they very obviously used as a crutch.
Like you're not forgetting that life exists. You're just using your stuff with the VR work to like just remember it, but kind of just also cherish what you have, and not, and Nog was just saying, oh, forget real life, screw everything else. I'm just going to go to a place where life doesn't exist, and I'm just going to live in something that isn't real. You're saying life is real, but you know what? I'm going to take what life has given me and build something despite of all that I've lost or suffered or whatever.
If I could manage to do that before I die, because I'm procrastinative and a real person, but yeah, that's the goal, right?
I hope
Well,
I
Joe,
hope I'm interpreting it correctly. Tell me if I'm not.
Oh yeah, you're
Joe,
good.
would you say that dealing with PTSD would be similar to the grief process?
Well, yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't know exactly how to deal with the grief aspect itself, but I think what it was trying to illustrate is that you've eventually got to recover some kind of balance, even if you're not quote unquote fixed, you know? It's appropriate. This is on Memorial Day because quote unquote fixed isn't always what we get.
Well, can you be fixed from it, or do you just, does part of you have to learn to live with it and just, you know, acknowledge that it's there? Is it curable?
Manageable? Question mark? Manageable? Everybody's got different trauma. Not everybody's came from war like Nog's or mine, but you know, these days everybody knows about PTSD. It's just a matter of degree, I'd say.
Like Joe,
True.
like someone who, sorry, Anthony, so as someone who's got like a disability and a chronic illness, I don't think some things are curable. I don't believe some things are curable. I think you have to learn to live with some things and manage life with some things. And you have to give yourself an amount of grace and hope that others give it to you. And you just have to learn to be positive and manage things and seek resources, seek help so that you can learn how to manage life despite all these things that life has given you.
Absolutely. But you know, I think it ties into we've already discussed O'Brien,
Yeah. Sorry,
but
Anthony, what were you saying?
I forgot.
Sorry, Anthony. Anyway, Teresa?
I mean, they handled it in so different a way, and their trauma came from a different place to begin with. You know, O'Brien was already a veteran soldier. So even though he had PTSD in other areas, and maybe even associated with the Cardassian War, because of the amount of times that was mentioned and brought up, he had developed ways to deal with it. Nog was so young and he was terrified because going into the war, he was excited, he was enthusiastic about being a soldier, about doing his duty, about winning the war. He didn't think anything would happen to him until it did.
True, true. Just to reiterate with little changes here and there. Kind of like this is why I'm saying no offense to anybody before I speak, but it's like how some of these young people and they went to Afghanistan, they're like, I'm gonna put on this helmet, I'm gonna take this here gun, and I'm gonna hunt Osama bin Laden. You know, then they run into a roadside bomb and their whole world changes when they have to start walking on crutches for the rest of the time. Yeah, that will flip your world up on top of its head.
I think it's a reality check. You know, you never think anything's going to happen to you. And we get kind of comfortable with that. So, you know, with all of the medical stuff that I've gone through, it was always, you know, the grief process, the going through the whole, this is really happening. And then something else would happen just about the time that you get used to, this is my new reality. There's, I mean, that's life. It's constantly throwing stuff at you.
Oh, yeah.
Well, let me ask this about the new reality. Say we do this crazy thing that I'm talking about with the VR or the AR, augmented reality, so that
Right.
you don't have the box on your head. But the therapist that you're talking to is an AI generated thing. It's like one of these GPT-3 things that's going on right now, where it's interactive
What is that?
and you're seeing it while you're talking. Now,
Right.
fast forward a little bit, it's going to be a weird thing. People are going to do this because they want to have their anime girlfriends or whatever. But I'm talking about serious therapy companion that they're like, yeah, I'm not talking to the voice in my head. I'm talking to this AR bot that keeps the voices in my head from doing all this stuff that we don't like to talk about when soldiers come back from stuff like that. What I'm asking here in this forum, in this group, is how tolerant are we going to be of the first weirdos that we see talking to their, AI bots like that, not knowing that, hey, this is no longer just a thing that the kids do with their Tamagotchis or their Pokemon balls, this isn't their little Pokemon friend that they talk to. This is like more akin to their companion, their service animal, and not even just their companion dog, but like the ones that are trained specifically to deal with traumatized humans as
About
a
as
deal.
tolerant as we are with each other right now, we're not tolerant at all.
Yeah, it's going to be a weird adjustment, but I see that on the horizon. I do. Maybe I'm the weirdo, but I see that on the horizon, and
Joe,
I'd
can
like
you
for it to
stop
be
that?
more viable.
Stop saying that about yourself. I'm offended that you would say that about yourself. We're all weirdos. We're all different. You should
Exactly.
know this about me. I'm personally neurodivergent. I think of myself as a weirdo all the time. I probably shouldn't, but you're not a weirdo. I love that you're here. I love that you're speaking these thoughts. Please continue speaking the thoughts freely and feel safe doing so.
Well, when is that going to get normalized, I guess, is the summary of my question.
Yes,
I don't
yes, I
know.
agree with you, Joe.
I don't know,
The
you
more
know,
we get the stigma out of here, just accept this for what it is and help people handle it.
this is why I write. This is why I've written so many essays for Chuck, which I'm more than happy to post again in the group. This is why I do these meetings. This is why I made this club, because there's such a stigma. There's such a stigma on people struggling to find a place to belong because they feel like they don't fit in anywhere else. They fail to meet the expectations on the quote unquote normal groups, normal social groups. They can't live up. They can't measure up to any other expectations. So they struggle to find a place to fit. And I'm one of those people who's struggled so much that they wonder if they'd ever fit. So I made this group for that very purpose, so people would have a place to fit if they wanted a place to fit.
Well, Joe, to answer your question though, I think that there's a lot more people who would be accepting of it right off the bat because we have been talking to computers. This is something that we've seen in TV shows and movies. The idea of a computer having a conversation with us. For us in the Star Trek world, like having a conversation with Data, he was sought out for advice by his crewmates, knowing he was an android. I mean, he was their friend first. And I think, in Japan, they've already got a bunch of the robots that do housekeeping and jobs like being a secretary. These are already happening. This technology does exist and it's being utilized in other countries. I'm only aware of Japan because I have friends that stay up with all of that stuff. But I think there will be people who think that's too weird and too much technology. And I mean, there's always going to be that group. I think a lot of older people will probably be very hesitant. And you want me to have a conversation with a computer, you're out of your mind. But I think especially younger people will be more open to it. And I don't think it'll take a long time for a large percentage. I think there'll always be holdouts that have those ideas of, I'm not talking to a computer. How is the computer going to help me? I'm a human. I think for myself, and you want this, computer to tell me how I feel or try to assess me in some way.
Sort of like Pulaski was with data, if you recall.
Exactly.
Eventually these computers that are like androids and stuff will have the same problems that Data did. He had to fight for his rights at one point because Starfleet didn't see him as anything more than a computer, if you recall.
Absolutely.
Well, it's the same with the doctor. He's just a
Yeah.
holographic inside out. So yeah, same exact issue.
And it's like these individuals, they're still very much individuals. Sentient life are still very much individuals. They're just unique, divergent individuals. They're not of the norm, but they still think, they still have free thought, they still have free speech, and they have to fight for their rights like so many other divergent individuals do. When they want to have rights, they have to fight for them because nobody feels like they deserve to have rights,
It's all theoretical now, but I don't know if it's within my lifetime, my kids, or maybe my grandkids before it's not theoretical anymore.
I think we're much, much closer than a lot of people realize and think. So, and I feel like we're probably a lot further away from Data and his capabilities, because Data did think independently of his operating system. He did not just have input output through the computer chips. He thought, he decided of his own mind to create a child. He saw members of the Enterprise crew getting pregnant, having children, and that inspired him to build law. So I think, how many times has something appeared on Star Trek that is now a reality for us? We have iPads, we have video conferencing, we're on a Zoom call where we can see each other and chat at the same time. There's more computer power in our cell phones than the computers that flew the first rockets into space. We have technology now that was a dream not that long ago. If you think about it, the original series was in the 60s, and that wasn't all that long ago to come that far.
True. Well, stupid joke here. I'm still waiting to go to Best Buy and buy me a food replicator. But you're right, most of that stuff has already happened. And it was a dream back in the 60s.
I'd like to know this. If we take for just a minute that maybe this would be possible, Nog had no problem opening up to the character in the holodeck, knowing, because in the episode it said people talk, knowing that that dude, holograph though he may be, was sentient enough to share and retain information. And that brings up a privacy concern that wasn't nearly as big as it was when that thing was written, but it is now, like 100-fold at least, and it's going to be more so. People I don't know too many of that trust a computer algorithm enough to open up the way he did.
Well, two thoughts
We
on
say
that.
but that's a lot of trust to put in there. And I was giving it some thought. What if we had our, analysis doctor bot that we kept on a hard drive of our own that kept our personal information, but we still want it connected to the quote unquote internet so it can be updated with the latest therapeutic strategies, with the latest metadata and what statistics are saying and all the updated stuff. Maybe there was a new shooting it needs to be aware about. so that it has context as to what the patient is talking about. You want it connected for all that stuff, but you don't want it connected for all your deep down dirty little secrets. So you want to have that box where it's private. And that's something they didn't have. They just forewent that in the episode and
Okay, check
implicitly
this out.
trusted that whole ship-wide computer that does kind of look at them do everything and records every word they say, if you think about it, but we're not there yet ourselves, so we don't have that trust yet. I'm saying as we go with this technology and build up and up and up, how do we take that path? Because we ain't there yet.
Yes, and I was just about to say,
Yeah.
Joe, a little bit of trivia. You know, at least as far as the Starship is concerned, right, and when people go on the holodeck and do their thing, all that stuff is being recorded and uploaded to Starfleet Medical every time the ship pulls into space dock.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I don't know if it was the TNG Tech Manual or some other journal, but yeah, they record everything that goes on in the holodeck and they send it to Starfleet Medical for psychiatric evaluation.
So are we ready to open up and be that therapeutic to get the help we need like Nog did and expose our deepest, darkest, innermost demons and stories and, you know, the
Well-
stuff like he was sharing to Starfleet Medical, knowing that's directly where it's going in the real world? I mean, it's still
it
kind of something that
wasn't.
we struggle with.
It wasn't, because those holodecks are not on a starship, and it does not go to Starfleet Medical. Those were owned by Quark. Also,
True.
Yes, wait, yes, it was. Yes, it
Oh,
did.
yeah.
Because like back in Dr. Bashir, I presume, because Julian was freaking out. Oh yeah, because the hologram had overheard the revelation that Julian was an augment, and Julian said, "Oh, a report's going to be written and I'm going to be exposed." Da 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 da. So yes, it is recorded.
that was not in the holo suites.
Can you
Remember,
just run
that
off
was
and get a technical journal?
I think so.
that was an EMH that was in sickbay. His parents went into sickbay and saw what looked and sounded like their son, but it was actually the EMH, and they decided to test on his parents to see if it was good enough to pass. They didn't realize that a secret was going to be let out. And they didn't stop it either, which I feel like was wrong on their part. But that was not in the holosuite. And I was going to point out that Vic Fontaine is not your average holosuite program. He was different. He could connect to the computer. He could tap into communications, and he could talk to Odo. He could talk to Nong. He could show up where he wanted to.
Well, I guess that's what happens when you have an AI program running 24/7. Because the EMH from Voyager and Vic Fontaine have that in common. Not the one that Vic Fontaine became self-aware to a certain degree.
Anthony, it was 26/7, not 24/7.
Well, and the 26/7
Put
didn't
your tongue
start.
away.
It didn't start until after Nog came out of holosuite, though. He talked to his uncle Quark, and he got him to agree to leave it running 26 hours a day.
Yeah, he already had some unique characteristics prior to that 26 per day setup, because they had addressed that in the issue. And yeah, he had some
Right.
special voodoo magic going on.
Well, remember, he was made by that super genius. He was not your average character. The
Mhm.
other characters in the program were, though. He was self-aware. He called himself a light bulb. He knew he was a hologram. The other characters did not know this. So that was unique to him. Now we know with the EMH program, they were certainly working on that. We got that advanced technology from the Gamma Quadrant that allowed the doctor to move around with a device on his arm. But that was alien technology, and at that point, we didn't have that in the Alpha Quadrant. So I'm sure when Voyager got back, I wish we had stories on this, but when Voyager got back, I'm sure they tore that device apart, studied it inside and out and backwards and forwards, because that technology would be so helpful to be able to put on a long-term trip an EMH doctor going into a war zone. What if the doctor's killed? What do you do if they had an EMH that was free to roam the ship because of that device? That would make deep space easier, going into unsafe areas, and EMH can't be just killed.
Well, they obviously use the emergency command hologram idea that the doctor came up with because of Janeway and Prodigy.
Right. But that hadn't
Actually, I haven't even
happened yet.
seen, by the way,
Yes, I did see Prodigy.
and she's happy about it.
Excuse me, I liked Prodigy. It was cute. So,
Okay.
You didn't like it, Anthony?
No, it's not that I didn't like it. I haven't seen it.
I
Well,
haven't either.
Because I've been trying to catch up with Picard and Discovery. And yesterday I was watching Strange New Worlds, episode 4.
you know, I'm gonna have to put that on the list then. We're gonna have to pay some attention to.
Prodigy
Yes,
or Strange
Prodigy.
New Worlds.
Like literally, we're gonna have to. You have Paramount Plus now, so what's the excuse?
Hey, I
True,
am
true.
loving Strange New Worlds.
Haven't seen it yet.
We've only seen one episode, so I was hoping not to spoil anything. I won't spoil anything because I
Yeah,
haven't seen
don't.
enough, but I'm ready to see the next one. So we're gonna continue that one. Thankfully, there's only what, 4? And there are
4
only
so
4?
far, yes.
But
Right on.
Thursday
It just
there's
came
going to be
out,
number
Joe.
5.
Yeah. But speaking of episodes, should we get on with this one?
Oh, right. And there was like an alternate reason we were here. So
Did we get on with watching this one? We've got quite the crowd here.
Sure.
All right. So what we're
Okay,
going to do is
so the protocol is we all watch on our devices. I'm not doing a teleparty. And it is, if my computer will work, I'll just,
season 7, episode 10.
yeah, season 7, episode 10. Thank you. And then once we're done, just put it in the chat and we'll all wait for each other just because that's how we are. And yeah, and then we'll come back together and we'll talk some more. Does that sound good?
Sure.
Sounds
well, that's
good.
how we usually operate.
That is how we usually operate. Thank you. And if anybody has any questions or comments, feel free to chat in the chat. All right.
All right, and don't forget, mute yourselves.
Yeah, I was just about to say. Let me do that.
Yes. Anyway,
If you click on your name, Joe, it will give you the option of muting, starting, or stopping the video.
yeah. So everybody enjoy yourselves and I'll see you in a little bit.
Sounds good.
Take care.
All right.
Bye. See you in a bit. Hi.
Hey.
You know, one of my favorite quotes from this episode is, sometimes they win or sometimes they lose. What's important? But that they're still in the game, you know. We have personal wars or we have bigger wars, but you know what? The most important thing is that we don't give up, that we keep fighting, that we keep persisting, that we learn whatever there is to learn and we take it and we keep going. We don't give up.
Okay.
Okay, what?
Okay, I'm trying to catch up with this discussion.
We
And
just
I think I
started. What
still had-
discussion?
I think I still have 5 more minutes of show.
Oh, I'm
but
sorry. Well,
okay. But I think I have enough to go along with this discussion. I'm at the point where Vic Fontaine shut himself off to get Nog to return to reality.
well, that actually brings up a good point. Sometimes we have to shut ourselves off to help ourselves return to a reality after we've experienced a traumatic event. Like we're so embroiled in trauma that we don't know where to turn. And sometimes we just have to shut ourselves off from everything to kind of help ourselves return to reality. We needed a shutdown time.
I think he's saying he was at the point right at where
I know. I was making
Fontaine
a
was
bit of-
saying that's the end of that.
I was
You've
drawing
given-
on his comments to make a bit of a metaphor.
Yeah. That's as far as you are in the episode, right?
Yeah, I think I got Paramount Plus with the commercials.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
We just got that too.
Yeah, because I'm not blowing $100 just to go ad free. But
Oh, wait.
anyway,
But yeah, in the metaphor, that's what I was able to draw off that comment. I know that sounds weird, but captain's prerogative. I can draw metaphors and whatever I want, whenever I want.
and are you copying me?
So what?
Okay.
But what are people's thoughts on that about sometimes having to have a shutdown time to help pull ourselves back to reality? I mean, the shutdown time may include detaching from what we call a normal life and sometimes going to seek help or whatever, and deviating from what we call normal everyday life to kind of get ourselves back to a point where we can resume everyday life.
I mean, we all need a timeout, right? I mean, you get stressed out, you have a bad day, bad week, bad whatever. We all
Oh, you
need
had a real bad week.
you need a timeout. Go make yourself a cup of tea. Splurge on some
Mhm.
really good dessert and just chillax, right?
Mhm.
Or sleep all day, or take a bubble bath, whatever you need to do.
And it's not weakness to say, hey, I'm not fine at the moment, but I will be all right in time, as long as I know that I'm cared about, as long as I have access to resources, as long as I can just do whatever I need to do to get okay.
Yes,
But,
but the mind is a complex thing, no? And you see most of the episodes where Ezri's just trying to get Nog. Okay, I know it's a bad thing, but some people are resolute and some people are fragile. So how they deal with reality, well, it's kind of up in the air, like the casino, if you will.
Yes.
Because I've dealt with people who can pretty much bounce back from anything. And I see people who I feel like I'm walking around eggshells because they're so easily triggered by their past trauma that it's all they think about for days at a time.
But people have different levels of resilience and different abilities to get resilience. And that evolves during our lifetime. At some points in our lives, we may not know how to access resilience. And at other points in our lives, we may be really good at getting resilience and building on it.
Yeah, because I've seen both extremes and people in between.
Really. That sounds interesting. You want to elaborate? You don't have to use names, but still.
Yeah, because I dealt with my share of like some people. Well, I don't want to like say street people, but I know some people have gone through like mental trauma. No, I know they have their little moments, but then they come back. That's one side of the bell curve. other side of the bell curve, you have the people who are so easily triggered, even by subtle changes in one's vocabulary, that they get all bent out of shape. Facebook, their social media, they start blocking people and speaking ill of things, and they won't talk to people for like a week.
Right.
And I had somebody do that to me.
Right. So they disassociate from themselves in reality and just focus on one set goal, right? I mean, this makes me think of, I don't know if I've spoken about this podcast before, the Sunday dinner with Nana, a visitor, and Django Siddig. They talk about disassociation in their most recent episode. And, I think we all have a little bit of disassociation within us, and we respond to it in different ways. And, this is something we all have in common. But, another thing we all have in common, we're all people and we all want to know ourselves and learn to love ourselves, but we don't know how to gain the resilience that we need necessarily, because we all have different upbringings, and some upbringings don't encourage resilience and other upbringings encourage resilience, and some of us lack the willingness, and some of us lack the strength to seek after resilience. Even if we don't know it's essential. Even if it's deep down, we know it's essential. We know it's essential.
I think Anthony brought up a good point a little bit ago. And it reminded me of when I was dealing with some trauma, how deep into that World of Warcraft bubble I got because it was a straight up wall to block me out from dealing with reality. And it was a lot like Knox's plans to build that casino. And he full well knew that it was a false and constructed reality that he was surrounding himself with for therapeutic purposes, but it was his echo chamber and he was comfortable and everybody was being supportive externally. You saw how Esri and then Dr. Bashir and everyone contributed to, hey, let's go along with this because it will be a vehicle for therapy for him. And that's a bubble. And what I'd like to address here in this group is the imprecision of our language, because there's another bubble that Anthony talked about, that social media bubble. And we use a lot of the same vocabulary with it. We say, hey, you fill in whatever kind of slur you want because you're mad and about to boil over because you're done with this troll. You are living in a world that is fictitious and you're surrounding yourself with stuff that only reinforces and confirms, and it's very unhealthy, and you're just blah blah blah, and you start belittling them and you start yelling at them because you're wrapped up in this social media phenomenon that you want to say is a false reality. And that person on the other side is saying, yeah, you're saying that I'm living in some kind of nog thing. I'm not living in some kind of nog thing. I'm living in the real world. You just haven't opened your eyes, brother. That's what they're going to say in reverse and in response to you, because they're not in that nog thing. But what you're trying to say happens to mimic so much of the same vocabulary when you're just up to your eyeballs in their other opinion that you're like, wow, where is this even coming from? That you see what I mean? We say a bubble, a non-reality bubble. You're living in some kind of fake world, but we use so much of those terms for two completely different things. If I've done anything here in the last 5 minutes besides take you guys on a weird trip, it's just to differentiate that those are two different things that we don't commonly as a society address as two separate things. No, we seem to almost intentionally blur them together and refer to them as the same thing so that hopefully someone within hearing range will get what we mean when we mean either the one thing or the other thing. They're not as interchangeable as our limited way of talking about them allows for. Does that make sense to anybody at all?
Very much so, Mr. Joe. Yeah.
I don't know why you're so afraid that you don't make sense to us. I wish you would stop that.
Because I don't know when I'm just rambling and when the point that I'm making is actually coming out. I am
Well,
completely oblivious to seeing it. That's all.
This is a space where rambling is permitted and encouraged. So knock it off being worried about it, okay?
Captain's orders.
Well, I wouldn't say orders because I don't like to order anybody to do anything, but I encourage you to be free about your speaking.
Well, if it doesn't make sense, then I can elaborate or
I'm
just hush up to
Hey,
where,
I'm
yeah,
neurodivergent. Oh, I'm neurodivergent over half of what I say doesn't make sense half the time. So you're not alone.
yeah.
Oh no, Heather, that's not true.
So you're
Well,
not
you're talking to
alone.
us.
What?
Relax, Heather. You're talking to us.
Yeah, but he's just so afraid of not fitting in here and not measuring up, but he fits in and he measures up. Does that sound good to you, Joe?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, there's
Yes, he's so far so good, Joe.
all right, sweet.
But it was so smart of Vic to need Nog to fix the books because it started him out with a purpose, with something.
Yeah, basically like mindless busy work, just to distract him.
Exactly.
Tailor fit to his race's, best attributes.
I do agree because, holograms are smart. Holograms can pretty much do anything. I think Vic had an infinite amount of knowledge, and I don't think he really needed anybody to do anything. But he knew, like he said, people talk. He knew that Nog needed something to do. He needed rehabilitation. He needed a break from the real world, the real pain, the real suffering. And he's like, oh, this kid needs a break. I'm going to give him a break. And he didn't see anything wrong with this kid coming to him for help and relief from his suffering, from his pains, from all the horrors he was feeling. And he kind of blew off Ezri and is like, you know what, just chill out on this kid.
Well, I think Vic saw more clearly than anybody else on the station. Nog was being portrayed as a kid. Him and Jake were about the same age, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
he was a kid, and just like us sending 18-year-olds out to a battlefield, he got put in a very bad situation, but he lost friends. He saw people die. I mean, how many of us can say that we watched people get shot and die right in
Well,
front of our
I've never
faces?
seen somebody get shot, but I've seen someone die.
But
Yeah,
it's an
and I do
experience. It
recall.
changes you.
It does, yes. I still remember it fresh.
Yeah, and I do recall. I know I wasn't actually there when it happened, but I remember a childhood friend of mine. I'll go so far as to call him a friend. But we knew each other since we were little kids. When we were teenagers, we kind of split. But then I find out through the grapevine that he was well, bad enough that he joined the gang, but then I found out he was killed by a rival gang. But anyway, I had to go to his funeral. Yeah, I had to go to my childhood friend's funeral. And you can imagine, well, I don't know, I guess I'm the resilient type because I saw my friend's mother go batty, had to be restrained by the funeral home personnel. She was that distraught. Granted, it was her firstborn, so I understood.
Yes, you are resilient.
Oh, thank you.
Well, we all deal with things in different ways, but kids experiencing loss, like the kids from that school shooting, that's a different. I mean, a horse of a totally different color. They're experiencing something without the maturity, without the experience for how to cope with it. Not that every adult has any experience in losing someone. Aunt Catherine, when her husband died and they were much older, she practically tried to climb in the casket. She was just so upset. And we deal with that in different ways. But Nog was just bombarded with so many things. War, being under attack on the Defiant, on the station, then AR, it was a constant being in danger where you know your life's in danger. And Nog said, the reality of himself being hurt, even though he saw people around him hurt or killed, didn't really hit him until he got shot, until Dr. Bashir said, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to cut off your leg. That's when reality really hit for Nog. That's a lot. I mean, you think about it, he was still in there listening to the sounds of battle, knowing that it's, 6 meters out the door are the Jim Hadar literally killing your friends. And he was in there on a bed, stuck there. I mean, Quark comforting Nog, but Quark killing those Jim Hadar as they tried to come in and protecting him. Those were big things and a lot to try to figure out mentally.
Yes. And speaking of it, to put a little bonus thingy down the group chat. You don't have to do it, but just thought be like mental enrichment.
Oh man, that thing is burned into my head since it came out in what, 1993? Right
Yeah.
around. Yeah, dude. Yeah, that song. I don't gotta look it up. I've got a long history with that particular song. I got ripped off. Short story. We were supposed to go see them my day back from my foreign exchange when I was a foreign exchange student for a year and I was abroad. They said, "Welcome back to Oklahoma. Guess who's playing? Metallica and Alice in Chains." And I was all psyched up. And yes, that song was just going over and over in my head, waiting in line for this thing. They balked at the last second, at the last minute. We were already at the show out there in that heat. And Alice in Chains did not open for Metallica. We still saw Metallica, but they were not there. I had to wait 24 years 24 years to hear that freaking song out here in Tulsa, out here in, what was it, 2019? They finally showed up and they finally played Rooster and I finally got to hear it. So as far as your bonus assignment, I'll see it, I'll raise it a couple and I'll say gladly. Gladly, I recommend everybody look at that song because yeah, it's burned right on in up here. Yeah, and it's
Excellent.
true. I agree with it.
I would like to just make an interesting point that the counseling, the typical counseling that Nog received in the therapy, that only took him so far. And then Cisco made an interesting comment that sometimes the patient can make the next move as far as recovery goes, because it fits in with sometimes somebody needs multiple forms of therapy, multiple forms of help, extensive types of counseling and years of counseling, and sometimes some off time, shutdown time before they're fully okay. What are everybody's thoughts on that?
Sorry, kindly repeat the statement.
Like I was talking about how Cisco made the comment after Nog started, avoiding his counseling and his therapies and stuff. Sometimes the patient can make the next move for you. And sometimes, and I'm thinking about the article I wrote that had the "You Are Not Alone" thing attached to it, the thing I had republished on Shakespeare.
Okay.
Sometimes people who are recovering from trauma or coming out of trauma can benefit from multiple types of therapy and help, and returning to therapy after moments of off time to kind of process what they've already learned in therapy. What are people's thoughts?
Well, Esri said that, by the way, but for me personally, I have found at some of my lowest, most depressing, most traumatic times that doing something for somebody else helped me. Feeling like I was helping somewhere else helped to pull me out of that space. And I realize that doesn't work for everybody. But not everybody can sit and talk about themselves or talk about their feelings. My dad's family, the men and the Crab family do not talk about feelings. They try to act like they don't have them. So, I think for some people it's just too difficult to keep rehashing. And I've had a little bit of experience with, 25 people want you to tell them this experience that you went through over and over and just rehash all of the details. Sometimes you just need to get away from it and not go over it and over it and over it. It hurts. You don't want to keep saying it. You don't want to keep feeling it. You don't want to keep hearing about it. You just want to get away from it.
And yet Nog was greeted by those people like clapping for him and cheering for him and hugging him and stuff as if he were a hero as soon as he got off the airlock instead of being given a moment to breathe.
Well, I think he
Yeah.
had a
That pissed him off.
And looking around my way, I know me being in New York and like how crazy things are, me turning on the news every other day. There's a police officer who got shot in the line of duty. See, they wheel him out of the hospital in the wheelchair. You got like 20 cops on either side, clapping, cheering for him. Now you got me wondering, how does he feel being wheeled out in the wheelchair? All those people saluting and clapping and all of that.
Oh,
Oops.
probably overwhelmed. He probably just wants a minute to breathe and process and kind of recover. He just doesn't want all the attention, probably.
I think it depends on the personality of that person. But yeah, I mean, true heroes, they don't feel like heroes. Nog didn't feel like a hero. He felt like he failed in that mission because a crew member was lost on that mission. And that's what he told Cisco. And Cisco said, you found the camp. You let us know how many Jem'Hadar were there. But you did, your mission was to find the camp. You succeeded. Because I think even then, Nog felt responsible for the fact that a crew member died on what he felt was his mission.
I've got a lot to say personally about how that feels.
Okay, well, go ahead.
The floor is yours.
Roommates. My 6-month roommate before deployment number 2, yeah, he thought he was a hero. And then Ryan Russell, he fell asleep in my bed the first night I was at my first duty station because I couldn't find my own bed. And he fell asleep in that. He thought he was a hero. You were talking about young ones earlier. The young ones. I don't think he was 21 yet. I don't think he was 21 yet when he was drinking and stumbling up into my bed. So losing people like that and feeling those associated feelings. Yeah. The part that gets me is people are like, thank you for your services now. What they don't get, what you want to say right in that moment is, hey man, it's still worth getting to know the people you're assigned to, your unit, your group, the platoon, whatever. You're the doc, you're the medic. You're going to need to know something about their medical history to do your job, but you're also going to need to know them on a personal level so that you are able to best minister to what they need. You're talking about helping others and stuff. That's one way to do it. And you need to be reminded, dude, yeah. And when the enemy takes some of them out or they flip a tank and drown, and it's like, what? That's a real thing? That wasn't even in combat. That was just poor driving because the commander told them to, and you're dealing with those types of things. You kind of need to remind those people because people say, I don't know what to say to someone having that experience. And I was thinking about it while y'all was talking. You know what nobody thinks to say? Hey, buddy, it's still worth getting to know people, even though you want to say God takes them away, circumstance takes them away. You don't need to dwell on how they're taken away, but what you dwell on is, hey, buddy, you know what? It's still worth it to get to know people around you and invest a little bit I know it sucks when you lose them, especially when you have the good times with them and all this good stuff. But there's still a reason it's worth it. And if you can't provide that reason or be that reason, that's up to self, you know, reflection and all that crap. But that's what nobody ever tells these people that are going through this grief and this loss and this stuff, because that's what they feel like. They feel like I just invested all that soul of mine and now I'm having to singe it and burn it off or drink it away or purge it with whatever hollow sweet reality I use in place of the pain of now having to divest in all this soul I gave X and X person. And people just need to be reminded, because I know nobody ever reminded me, hey man, people are still worth investing a little bit of your soul in. Because guess what? When you don't do that, that's how we get all these closed off people. These hurt, wounded, depressed, isolated. 2020 was such a good catalyst because it gave everybody who was already quasi like that very good excuse to just lock down and isolate. Now they don't have to be, and they never have to address the issues that are making them like this. But, you know, when it's something like what Nog went through, like a big showy production of, hey, it's wartime and they lose people, you know, then you can say, well, hey, you need to remind them like that. But on a less intense degree, maybe we should be reminding each other of something similar to that, because we certainly don't seem to be doing a very fucking good job of it to me. And yeah, with that, I'm done.
Okay,
Didn't you say that, and what was it last week, that people are more than just a number? I think you said something like that, Teresa, didn't you? Was it last week?
Now my days blur together. I don't know what day it was. But yeah,
I'm a good listener. I remembered you saying that.
but we do. We need to remember that people are important, and like Joe said, you know, if you invest all of this time in your platoon and you lose 6 men on a mission, I mean, that stings in a way that unless you've experienced that, you don't understand. But then I can see that you would be hesitant with the next recruits coming in, you know, getting close to them, because what if they get shot? What if they, you know, get captured? What if, you know, what if whatever? But they're taken out of our group after, you know, investing into them with your heart and your soul and your time and energy. I can totally see that, and I think I will keep that in mind the next time I'm speaking to somebody, because that to me is a good point.
It carries right
Um,
back into the civilian world. You know, we all carry those hurts. It's just that one's real easy to highlight and use as an archetype or an example. But yeah, I mean, that's it. We're like, what's the point of investing again? That one's gonna screw me over, or that one's gonna get hurt and die. And it's just a slow whittling down of our will to invest. And that's what I was meaning by the whole pandemic thing. It enabled, if you were already prone to thinking that way or feeling that way because you're tired of the hurt of investing, it's just perfect reason to do that again. I mean, yeah, yeah, it seems to be something that is like a secondary pandemic, this willingness just to isolate and say, you know what, I've had enough of this hurt, and not reach out and remind each other that we're worth investing some time to make some good experiences
Yeah,
in each other.
you know what? This is making me think of that essay Star Trek teaches us, that we must not forget to care. Like, Joe, this is an essay I wrote in 2021. And if you don't mind, I'm going to share a quote that I think resonates with what you said.
Yeah, fire.
Yeah, this is Dr. Bashir's words in Deep Space Nine's past tense. This famous quote: he was walking with Cisco in the sanctuary district. They were trying to find a place to keep warm because they couldn't keep warm and they were freezing cold. And this is what he said. And this is something we should think about when we're thinking about how we all have personal battles to fight and need to help one another succeed in enduring them. Causing people to suffer because you hate them is terrible. But causing people to suffer because you have forgotten how to care, that's really hard to understand. And this is a quote I came up with when writing the essay. truly, we must not forget to care, even though it may be hard for us to care. And I mean, this is what you said, like, it's difficult for people to care because they're so tired. They don't have any energy left. They don't have any spoons left. They're so tired and overwhelmed by their own lives. They're thinking, oh God, we got to go care about somebody else. I mean, we don't know what the future's going to hold. COVID could get them, life could get them, and we got to go care about them. What if we lose them and all our caring's gone to waste? You know?
I don't think it's ever going to waste to care about someone. When I was in college, my pastor was also the Oklahoma State chaplain for the fire department. He was one of the boots on the ground at 9/11, taking care of the firefighters who were doing the actual recovery. One of his jobs was to pray with them and care for them and get food for them and help them find a place to sleep. But you know, I think about it. We got a lot of firefighters in my family, and over the course of the last year, they have lost several, including quite a few young firefighters. And my brother has made some comments that certainly feel very related to the things that you and Joe have said. But it is difficult, you know. My brother's a leader at the fire station, and he teaches firefighting classes at the VOTEC. So he sees whole classes of these young men and women coming through, and he pours a lot of himself into everything he does. He's just that kind of person, but he throws himself into building them up to be the best firefighter they can be. And I know that he's lost at least 2 people out of his class that he taught. These were his students. And, you know, I can see that being something that makes it difficult to pour into the next class. When you've poured everything you have into these kids and they die, and I can see that as being rough. It's not something I've ever really put actual thought to and like processed it in my head.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. When somebody survives a trauma like Nog did, they have to come home. It's a new world to them. They come home to a new world. It's different from when they left because they have to come home to a new experience. They've lost a little piece of themselves to a trauma. And I'm sure Joe agrees with this when I say this. And they have to find a place for themselves in the new world. And as I've said in this essay, finding a place to belong is often a battle, and it is a battle that people from every walk of life struggle with every day. And more often than not, people who struggle to find their place in that new world that they come into after surviving trauma of any kind often fall prey to negative emotions, like Nog did, and they find comfort in them because it's easy, because they feel alone and overwhelmed and they don't know how to handle themselves. But you know what? The sad thing is, Nog took comfort in his suffering and sorrows. But you know, we really shouldn't do that because we feel, but people do it because they feel they're alone. And we feel as if nobody cares, so we retreat to our cold little corner of the universe like Nog did when he laid in bed and played that song 100 times. And we suffer silently, but we need to reach out to others for help. We don't need to.
Some people won't let their pride won't let them reach out for help.
Yeah, but we needed Jake to kick us out of bed and said, go find something to do.
Well, I think that we, just as human beings, need to pay more attention to the hurts of other people. Because sometimes something as simple as a Facebook message, hey, I haven't seen you online in a while. How are you? Just something to reach out to them, because there are so many thousands and thousands of people who are in the process of isolating themselves from everything, and they think the longer it goes before somebody reaches out, see, they don't really care about me because nobody's talked to me in a week, nobody's messaged me in a week, nobody's, they wouldn't notice if I wasn't even here because they haven't noticed for this amount of time. And the longer that time gets, the worse that feeling can become of, see, nobody cares because nobody's reached out, nobody's contacted me, nobody cares, and if I disappeared off the earth, they wouldn't notice.
Mm,
Hmm.
It
You
can
know,
feel self-reinforcing. Yeah.
yeah. And the sad part is everyone's natural instinct should be to love and help each other be their best selves, because we're all the same and that we are human with a need for love. And I'm reading from the essay again. We are all human with a need for love, friendship, and a place where we can belong. But you know what? The easier instinct is to fear what is not easily understood, and trauma is not easily understood. The aftermath of trauma, how we feel because of trauma, is not easily understood. We don't know how to handle somebody who suffers from trauma. We don't know how to handle somebody who is recovering from trauma, so we don't. And more often than not, individuals are left to struggle alone with little or no support available, because you know what? Everybody forgets to care about those who are hard to understand. And a lot of people who suffer trauma are hard to understand because they don't understand how to handle it themselves. But we need to be better than we are. We need to look at people and love them as they are and be there for them, even if it's difficult for us, because we learn how to be better people. We learn how to love better just by being ourselves, being our loving natural selves.
yes. Oh, and P.S. Well, that's true, very true. And the other thing, Heather,
Mm-hmm.
do not try to throw a cannoli at me, please.
Oh,
Why would you throw a cannoli? They're too good to waste.
oh.
Inside joke. Inside joke, Teresa.
I was just teasing.
It's like I just feel so bad for people who suffer trauma and are left by themselves to deal with the trauma by themselves, because people are like, oh my goodness, I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to deal with the people who suffer from trauma. And it's like, they don't understand. They don't want to understand. So they just pretend that that person doesn't exist to them, because it's easier to do that than work to be a friend.
Well, for Joe and I, in our family, there were several tragedies, including his grandpa, my cousin, and some others. But people tend to forget that. They forget about that trauma because it happened in the past, and they move on as if nothing happened. And I think that's so hurtful to the person who's going through the trauma. Is they remember every day.
Mm-hmm.
They remember every day. And I posted a meme the other day where somebody said, I wish, I think it's my cover photo. I wish every day could be Memorial Day. And then it says, for some people it is. And for people who have experienced a loss, my Aunt Beverly and my sister both experienced the loss of an infant. That's something they think about every day. Those kids' birthdays come around, they remember how old they should be. They think about that when they're doing things with the family. There's really one missing. You know, it's not the whole family. There's one missing. And when things happen, it's easy for those who are a little bit further away. And the further away you are from that trauma, the easier it is to forget the pain of the person who is the closest.
Mhm.
And I don't know, the older I get, the more I try to pay attention to that, the more I
Mhm.
try to notice that someone, and my sons are really good about this with other
Uh-huh.
people, not so good with their family members, but they were always good at looking around at the park or church or the youth group or whatever, and noticing that there's somebody sitting in the corner, not participating, not doing, and they would seek them out. Um, and I think that we could all learn from that and seek out those people who are withdrawing, seek
Yeah.
out those people who are clearly hurt. You know, when we watch an episode together, there are a lot of things that could trigger a very emotional response in someone. And I think that we should be aware of the signs of someone pulling away, someone experiencing, just the
Yeah.
emotion and living through that trauma again. And it doesn't take much. I mean, you guys all know a smell, a song, a sound, passing a motorcycle. You know, we lost somebody in a motorcycle accident. Passing a motorcycle, you think of that person, you think of those things. And grief is like that. Like, it doesn't, it comes and goes, you
Yeah.
know?
Yes. Trauma makes it difficult for people to develop resilience and to stand up for themselves. And I'm thinking about the more recent essay that I published, Tolerance is Not Love. And something that Chase Masterson said in regards to how we can help each other get past trauma, she said that we should be more like Spock and stand up for those who lack the ability to stand up for themselves. We should help. And this is me talking now and not Chase. We should help each other and guide each other towards sources that can help us develop resilience. And, this world can be so cold and unforgiving, and sometimes we can lose our kind selves with it. And we don't need to.
Yes.
It's so easy to forget to care about one another, but we must not forget to love one another.
Janice, any words from you?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm suspecting y'all are getting tired.
Well, Anthony's making the rest of us yawn because we weren't doing that before he did it.
Yeah, so I think this is a good point to end. And
Okay.
this is just to end. I think we should all remember to care about one another and help each other through our struggles. And if we notice somebody struggling, we should reach out to them and remember to care. It may be hard for us to care, but we must not forget to care. And that's a good ending quote. And I love
Okay.
you all.
Hey, well, this has been great, and I'm glad you guys invited me and let me invite somebody just sight unseen,
Oh,
just saying, yeah, bring somebody with and drop on in.
I was glad to have
Um,
you. I hope you come back. Thank you for coming.
Yes,
yeah,
you've
it's
been
been
the
a
most
blast.
entertaining guest, Joe.
Thanks. Hey, support me. I literally just yesterday or the day before decided I was going to start a twitch.tv, and it's JD2's at, like JDTOO, and it's JD2's at. I don't even think I going to get on with any kind of consistency or anything, but I'm just throwing it out there. So hit subscribe and say I did my Boy Scout thing or Girl Scout thing for the day. And maybe, who knows, maybe it'll turn into the turning point in my journey, and all of a sudden, you know, I'm on point and I'm the next big Twitch star. Who knows? Who knows?
Awesome.
Shameless plug. Why not? Why not?
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you all for coming. Have a safe rest of your day and live long and prosper. See you all later. I dismiss you into the wonderful world and universe. Love you all.
Awesome. Can't
All
wait
right,
to
good
come
night,
back and see you
everybody.
guys again. Hey, what is the next episode? Where's the schedule for it?
It is the next episode. I will.
28. Wait, no, this
Today's
is the 28th. It's
Today's the
June
28th.
4th. June the 4th. It's on the Facebook page.
Yeah, it's on the Facebook page. Thank you all for coming.
Okay.
Bye. Nice to see you guys.
Bye.
All right.
Thank you all for attending this meeting. Live long and prosper.